Hello, my friends. My name is Jack Ducard, and welcome to Sentinel Circle. Thank you for being here today. We're going to cut right into the article. Why most Americans will outlive their retirement savings. The average American needs $1.26 million to retire comfortably. Keep in mind, this is today's economic numbers. These can change at any time. But most have saved only a fraction of that. Inflation isn't going away, Social Security won't be enough, and the future will favor those who plan wisely. Here's how. Baby boomers may already be into their retirements, but Generation X isn't quite there yet. They are, however, edging ever closer to the last day of work. Because of this, retirement planning and retirement figures are more and more on their minds. It's completely understandable. No one wants to reach retirement and not have the funds to live comfortably, whether you're Gen X, Millennial, Gen Z, or younger. Okay, whatever. So, of course, coming up with a figure to save towards and plan to get there are major parts of the whole retirement planning process. You are already doing both of those things, aren't you? Which brings us up with the first big question. How much do you really need to retire in comfort? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Well, it used to be, yes, I'm being a little sarcastic, the goalposts just keep moving in the right direction for once. No. The whole thing could fall apart tomorrow, so don't freaking lie to me about this stuff. All right? We've seen inflation just go right up there, up the rear end. It can change tomorrow. You know, we're already facing another recession. We just got out of the other recession that we were claiming didn't exist. Come on. This is ridiculous. For 2025, the magic number to retire comfortably is down to an average $1.26 million, a $200,000 drop from the $1.46 million reported last year, according to a new study from Northwestern Mutual. That number went down, which is great news. Okay, so what happens when it goes back up? Am I hosed then? In fact, for as long as I've been working with Birch Gold, this is the first time I can ever remember that magic number coming back down, back in line with 2022-2023 estimates. That's progress. Come on, no. That's not progress. Because again, that could change at an instant. The market could take a dump tomorrow. God dang it. This is so up your rear end, it hurts. On the other hand, $1.25 million is a lot of money, yes. Unlike an emergency fund or even a down payment on a home, it's not an easy amount to set aside, especially when you consider how much the average American takes home, which is only $59,384. The average household income is slightly higher, $80,000 a year, which means the average American will need to save every penny they earn for over 21 years to save enough to retire comfortably. Every penny means none of it going towards taxes, let alone living expenses like foods, utilities, or housings. Vacations, your kid's college fund, date night, forget it. Then what's the point? Huh? Like, seriously, if what we're supposed to do, according to this article, is we are supposed to graduate high school, go to college. Actually, no, scratch that. Not go to college. Just save every single penny without buying things like food, housing, utility, whatever, just to retire comfortably. Then what is the point in living? Like, seriously, this is what I'm talking about when I say retirement is... I don't have a retirement plan because I fully admit that I know I'm going to die alone in a home. And when I say a home, a retirement home, I'm going to end up in a place of no dignity if I live that long, which I hope to Jesus I don't. I hope God comes knocking on my door before I get to that point, because I've seen it, I've smelled it, I've endured it. I know what those places are like. They are disgusting. They're awful. They treat you like dirt. They treat you like you're some inconvenience, some product, something to make money off of. No, thank you. I'm good. They feed you gruel And the thing is you don't even notice. You're in there, like, you're so out of it because you're so doped up, you have no idea. What kind of retirement is that, my friends? What kind of life is that to look forward to? No, thank you. That is not for me. Obviously, that's easier to accomplish if your income is above average. Whether or not, that's quite a lot to save. Don't get discouraged, though. There's more good news. Okay, sure. Fortunately, most people have some savings. That is good news. Always have savings. I do believe in that. I spent a lot of time writing about the American retirement crisis. Personal finance topics too, how Social Security is running on fumes, the importance of an emergency fund, the savings account illusion, and wealth preservation strategies. I like to think that I'm making a difference. Well, that's good. I'm glad, sir. Thank you. Unfortunately, despite my hundreds of articles, millions of words written on these crucial subjects, most people haven't saved enough. Not even close. The average 401k balance was $131,700 in the fourth quarter, while the average IRA balance stood at $127,534, according to Fidelity. That's a little over 2 years of gross income. It's real progress. I like how he's spitting this like it's great. I'm sure for someone who's trying to follow the path in life, yeah, that's good, but not for me. It's not for me. And it's set aside in retirement savings account, not more accessible places like bank accounts or stash under the proverbial mattress. Pardon me. On the other hand, the average American has saved just 1/10 of retirement savings they know they'll need. 1/10. If you knew that you were in that situation, wouldn't you be concerned? Of course you would. In fact, many Americans are very concerned about this. Even after lowering the bar, more than half, or 51% of Americans in Northwestern Mutual study expected to outlive their savings. Just 16% said that outcome would be very unlikely. You should outlive your savings to a point. Because when you pass, if you try and give it to your children, they're going to get taxed to hell and there's going to be nothing. Like, just don't bother with, unless you want to, like, have something more tangible, like gold bars stashed under your house, and give them a treasure map and say good luck. I could see that, because then that's not tax. You can kind of do and drop it off at the local gold place and get it there. That would be smart. I'm not a financial expert. Don't listen to me. Don't do it. I'm just some guy. Listen to the real pros. Even though I think this whole thing is a giant scam, listen to the real pros. Half of our fellow Americans expect to run out of money in retirement. Half. That is a scary number. And while having some money saved and invested is a good thing and far, far better than nothing, these figures are only the beginning. The magic number will keep changing. Yeah, that's kind of the issue, is the goalposts are always going to be changing. There's never going to be a good time. You're never going to, you can sit here and plan for $200,000 or $2 million, and it's going to be $4 million by the time you retire. Like right now, just going out to eat in most cases is $20 freaking dollars just for one person. It used to be you could get a cheap $5 meal and have something that'll last you for a good little bit. Groceries are $600 freaking dollars a basket. Like, it's just, I know, like, inflation's starting, prices are starting to go down, but, like, Jesus criminy, it's rough out there. I'm the first to admit it's rough out there. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit my mic there, but I'm tired of this. I really am tired of this, my friends. And I'm sure all you people are tired of it too. God, I hate this article. Let's just get through it so that way I can start screaming. Most financial planners and analysis work under the assumption, on average, inflation will run about 2% per year. That's what the Fed tries to do. That's built into their assessment of how much we should set aside today in retirement years or decades in the future. Unfortunately, that's totally wrong. I looked at the numbers since the establishment of the Federal Reserve. Inflation has averaged 4% annually. even after the official inflation calculations were quote unquote improved. That's my point. We're being set up to fail no matter what we do. So based on that, you should be planning on 5% inflation, even though like the last couple of years have been what, 9, 10%, whatever. I've heard stories about what hyperinflation looks like. You know, when you get your paycheck and the only thing you can buy is a bottle of soap, that's a problem. You know, the whole system is built on faith that it's going to work tomorrow. And when your faith is slowly being eroded, what choices are you left to live with? And what will inflation mean for Americans who want to retire? Well, it's a little more complicated than just changing a single number in your spreadsheet. The Center for Retirement Research at Boston College had explained. Whatever. Older households have just had a sharp reminder that inflation may not be stable throughout retirement. When you're on a fixed income, prices aren't fixed. It's a losing game. Experiencing a bout of high inflation later in life is generally harmful to financial well-being, but as expected, the impact varies depending on the household's specific financial profile, the extent to which income and assets grow with or lag inflation, and the amount of debt outstanding. That's right, because retirees are much more likely to be on a fixed income. They're hit much harder by inflation. Inflation, the tax that nobody voted for and everybody pays, permanently destroys purchasing power. Social Security cost of living adjustments, COLAs, don't keep up. Not only are they backward looking, they're based on deliberately flawed measurements. So again, that's why everyone's like, oh, well, Social Security is there to say, no, it's not. Stop it. Shut up. Let the adults talk. Okay, to recap, you need about 1.25 million to retire now. What is it going to look like when it's my turn to retire, which I'm not planning on retiring because I know that number is going to be about $10 million. Most Americans just don't have enough and never will. That's the one statement right there that everybody needs to take to heart. Most Americans just don't have enough and never will. The magic number will keep changing things to inflation. Social Security won't help as much as you think. Let's go back on track and talk about what we can do. So how much do you really need for retirement? We hear that question a lot, and the best answer for most people boils down to more than you have now, a lot more. And then again, you're sacrificing, you're saving, you're doing whatever, and then when it's time to enjoy the fruits of your labor, you either have a medical condition which wipes you out, or you are too old to enjoy all the things that you wanted to enjoy. And there's that famous photo where the old couple are in Italy and they're asleep on the boat. You know, the little gondola. Like, you know, what's the point then? What's the point if you can't enjoy the retirement? What's the point if you can't enjoy these things? You know, we're constantly told save, 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 save. And then come 2020, when the world falls apart, it's taken from us. This is what I'm talking about when we're talking about conditioning. We're talking about a pathway, and that pathway just does not work. Unlike almost everything else in our lives, saving for retirement just isn't something you can overdo. If you recall, I've talked about Fidelity's benchmark saving levels by decade. 3 times your annual income by 40%, or by 40, 6 times your annual income by 50, 8 times by 60, and 10 times by 67. So basically, by 67, you'll have 10 years, in theory, your annual income. 10 years. So if you live the same way, obviously you're going to sell the house, you're going to reduce all that stuff, but still think about that. They're expecting you 10 years. So what happens if you just, because we've seen that happen before. There's people out there that live to 80, 90, 100 years old. But look at it this way. My grandfather died when he was, what was it, 63, 64, something like that. He didn't make it to 67. So what do you do in that situation? You basically did all this for nothing. I find it funny. I find it funny how it's always hedging your bet, insurance, retirement, all these things. You got to save, you got to pay money to, just in case the worst happens, your house burns down, whatever. But it just, like statistically speaking, what are the odds of all that stuff happening? And then, of course, if you don't buy that stuff to begin with, buy the things you don't need, that you don't want, then it's not a problem. I don't know what the answer is, my friends. It's just I know what my answer is, and I'm not living my answer. Okay? Even though it's just a generic guideline, it gives us a starting point. Do you have that stuff that much set aside now? Probably not. Don't feel bad. Most of us are in the same boat. Yeah. Don't let yourself fall into the obvious trap either. The easiest way to fix a shortfall in your savings is to overestimate long-term growth. I'm such a great investor that I can count on 20% growth every year. That's tempting. And if you're anything like me, that's very tempting to solve this problem by fudging the numbers. That's not the right solution. The federal government didn't fix the inflation problem by fudging the numbers. They just covered it up. Yes. Stop lying to yourselves, my friends. Be honest with yourself, because at the end of the day, the only person hurt by your lies, your lack of honesty, is you. Okay? You can lie to me all day long. It really doesn't affect me. As long as I don't depend on you, it doesn't affect me. But your lies, on the other hand, you lying to yourself, only hurts you. But it's impossible to predict future growth. The closest we can come to a crystal ball is a history book. Over the last half century, global economic growth has averaged 3.4% after inflation. For that reason, I believe it's reasonable to forecast our savings to grow at a maximum of 3.4 per year. I just don't believe it's responsible to think that, or anybody else can beat the average consistently over the decades. So is the real solution. Saving your retirement starts here. First part of the solution has to do with being aggressive, really aggressive. With your retirement savings, if you're behind with what you need to have at your current age, that's fine. If that is your solution, then your first job is to find ways to save more money, a lot more money, so you can invest it to have a secure retirement. So that way the stock market tanks and then you lose all your money. Funny how that works. After all, we can't make asset prices go up, but we can do our best to increase our income and to save more of it. Okay, how nice. Along the same line, you may want to consider saving more than you think you'll probably need. That way you have a much better chance to make your savings last, even if we see another lost decade of stagflation between today and your first day of retirement. Jesus Christ. So the best, if you want savings advice, the best thing that I've found is first off, budget rounding down to the nearest dollar. That's one. Two is budget by percentage. So 50, 30, 20 is, I think, the budgeting guideline. And three is find a way to put your savings away before you see it in your bank account, right? So like if that means like finding out where your percentage is and telling your bank, hey, when my paycheck hits, put this much aside in my savings account or whatever, that's the best way to do it. Okay. That's if you want like legit, like just money advice that I can give. But again, I'm not a guy. I'm just a guy. This is how I do it. You might find something better. Okay. Okay. We're almost done here. How much? Yeah, we're almost done here. The best case scenario, if you saved aggressively, is that inflation won't be nearly that bad and you have the funds to financially take that once in a lifetime trip during your retirement. yeah, you take the trip and you realize you're too old to do a lot of the things that you want to do. Sure. The second part of the solution is to diversify your savings. You want to be so thoroughly diversified that no matter what happens in the years ahead, a new golden age, a new Great Depression, or anything in between, you'll have assets preserving and grow your wealth. Ideally, you'll include inflation-resistant investments. Pardon me, I'll slow down. Ideally, you'll include inflation-resistant investments as well as safe haven stores of value to get you through the bad times. And plenty of economically sensitive assets that only grow during booms. There is no such thing. You're always going to incur losses. Diversification means no matter what happens, you're still winning. As central banks continue... Okay, that's an ad. We're not going to read that ad. It is my sincere desire to provide readers of the site with the best unbiased information. Oh, this is also an ad. Okay, so that was the end of the article. So let's take a quick commercial break, followed by your comments, and then followed by my final thoughts. Thank you for being here. Give me 1 second. Hello, my friends. Jack Descartes here once again. Thank you for watching this video. We appreciate it. I just would like to take a few moments of your time. Right now, we are currently raising money to host a website. We have Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, as well as a Patreon in case you'd like to donate once or you'd like to give a continued donation. The donation on the Patreon is only $3 a month. Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal, you can donate however much you want. There is no obligation. I will continue to try to provide as much content for free as possible. Once the website is up, we will use that as a hub for all Sentinel Circle related activities, including local meetups, as well as online meetups, online discussions, and videos. So again, if you could go and donate to either Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, or Patreon, all the links are in the description. We appreciate everything you have done for us. And if you can't donate, we still ask that you like, subscribe, and share. All these activities do help even in the most insignificant ways. If you do donate, you will be immortalized in our videos and the website. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Now back to our scheduled program. Welcome back. Thank you again for sticking with us so far. All right. Jack, read your comments. All right. We're cool. We're good. All right. So the first comment is Dean Cohey. Ew, he burped in the middle of his presentation. What a foul person. For context, this was on the Angry Cops video that I did. I was very upset with how the media portrayed Rich High, because the guy's speaking out against children diddlers, PDF files, and no one wants to do anything except for him. And he's getting a lot of blowback from his community, and specifically the media, which really just was like, I knew when I saw it, I knew what the reaction was going to be, but it still is surprising me. And the fact that the attorney for the school district is now looking to sue Unsubscribe and Rich High. I'm going to do a video when I kind of let the dust settle a little bit more on that. But the fact that I'll kind of preview my thoughts on this one. The fact that the same attorney that told the school district not to comply is now going to be the same person that's going to be billing the school district a lot of money for the lawsuit is very aggravating. Out of everybody, he's the one that's going to be making, him and his firm are going to be making a ton of money off of your tax dollars. I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to really go into it because I'm, unlike Unsubscribe and all, I can be sued to oblivion and I'd be hurt badly. So I'm not getting into it. That being stated, I strongly suspect that a lot of these attorneys are giving bad advice to government agencies on the whole anticipation that someone will sue and then they will get a lot of money defending these government agencies and such in court. I really do believe that that is what the conspiracy is on that. That is a good way of making a lot of money as an attorney. You know, again, I'm not a lawyer. Please, you know, be kind to me. I could be wrong, but that's what it seems like to me. And it's disgusting, it's disgraceful, and it's dishonorable. And I hope that guy gets, you know, I hope he gets what he deserves, either in this life or the next. Oh, crap. Sorry about that. Next comment. Evergreen 1400. I didn't watch the entire podcast on their channel when it came out, so your video breakdown was appreciated. Good work. Thank you, Evergreen. That video was very hard to record. That was kind of like my first scripted video, and I forgot how hard it was. I don't remember my scripts that well. It was very, very difficult, and I'm glad that it got the response it did. Currently, it's at 1,600 views. It's the most viewed video on my channel, and I'm very appreciative of that. What Unsubscribe is doing is very commendable. I don't agree with, like, for example, Rich High. I don't agree with some of the things that he may have done as a law enforcement. But I can tell that the dude is very genuine and he wants to help the children. He's got no ulterior motives. All he cares about is those kids. And that to me is rare. You know, and the fact that the media is going after them in that way, calling them foul, calling what they're doing foul. I you know what? I don't care. You know what? The legacy media, they're dying off anyways. Screw them. Screw all of them. You know, we are the fifth estate. We will take over the fourth estate. I just, no, I will never. Everybody look up Sinclair Broadcasting. Just look it up. I'll post a link under this video. Look it up. Look up Sinclair Broadcasting. They own most of the local news organizations in small town America. You know, all the affiliates, that's all Sinclair Broadcasting. You know, seriously, the media, you can't hate these people enough. You know, absolutely disgusting, disgraceful people. They are the foul people in this situation, not Rich High. Rich High is a freaking hero for what he's doing. Anyways, again, Evergreen, thank you very much. I appreciate your comment. MF_44, I stand with Rich. We all stand with Rich. Take the high road. Hashtag take the high road. Thank you very much for your support of my channel. Thank you very much of your support for Rich. He's a good man, and I will stand with him through thick and thin. I'll stand with him. Nick, NCK 4888. Good to see you again, Nick. As someone that's been married for 17 years, my woman loves to complain, and not for solutions, but for validation. You're not wrong, my friend. You're not wrong, and that's just kind of what it seems like that happens. But thank you for the comment, my friend. Thank you very much. I think that's the... No, we got one more. Vitalis. I'll call you Vitalis. Vitalis. Okay. Buddy, the danger in Texas is even more rattlesnakes. I got to be honest with you. Living out in Texas, I thought I'd run across more snakes. But like I ran across more snakes in California than in Texas. So, you know, well, I'll let you ponder that. But this was a good comment. Thank you very much for chiming in there, Vitalis. Is it Vilitus? I don't know. I'll just call you Vitalis. Anyways, and that's the last comment. Anyways, so let's go ahead and final thoughts here. So let's start with the most glaring thing. I've mentioned that I don't believe in retirement. It's not so much the whole, like, if you want to save for retirement, that's great. It's just when I say I don't believe in retirement, it's more, it's the whole life path thing. You know, you're born, you go through elementary, middle, high school, graduate, and then you either enlist in the military or you go to college, right? Well, military is kind of 50. It's like along the lines of blue collar work. So you graduate, you go to college, you go to your 4 year school, you know. Then you get married, you have kids, or you get a job, white collar job, get married, have kids. You save up all this money, and then you retire, and that's your life. Our lives are predetermined for us before we are even born, not by our parents, but by society. Okay? This is the quote-unquote correct path. Is that the right path? Well, no, it's not. The right path is the path that you choose, and the problem is the condition is so intense. It's so great that when you're confronted with something else, you can't comprehend it. And that's, when we had that whole MGTOW discussion, MGTOW is freedom, MGTOW is an idea, that struck home to me specifically. Now, again, I've said many times, I don't subscribe to labels, because labels put you in a box and people judge the box that you're in. But when I ask someone, and I'm going to make a video on this one day, when I ask someone, who are you? Their immediate reaction is their job. Why? Why does that have to be the reaction? Why can't you have an identity? Why can't you be somebody? And it's not about your job or what you do or your economics, your socioeconomic status or whatever. But people attribute your value by how much is in your bank, by your job, your profession, the college you went to, the degree you have, all these things. And you spend yourself into oblivion to try and keep up with the Joneses or the Jacksons or whatever. My friends, there's a better way. There's a more authentic way. And I'm trying with Sentinel Circle to rekindle that. I understand men going their own way. I understand Red Pill. I understand all these things. But the truth of the matter is, in MGTOW Outlaw, it was either MGTOW Outlaw or, God, I think it was MGTOW Outlaw said it best, that you can't be an island. You have to have others around you, whether you like it or not. And I learned that a little too, well, I shouldn't say too late. I learned that. And that's why one of the many reasons why I started this channel was I would like to have a tribe of my own, right? But it's not just about me. Sentinel Circle for me is an idea, just like MGTOW is an idea, a philosophy, right? And it's just that, yes, I'm sitting here, I'm presenting. It's because how else do I reach out to others? Everybody's living life through a screen. They're living life through this. This is the best way I know how. Is it the right way? Probably not. Okay. But do you want to see a fat millennial on TikTok making a fool of himself? And then you go, whoop, up to the next one. And I'm in your feed for like a second. I don't know. I don't know what the answers are, my friends. I don't. But what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to say, hey, I'm out here. Come listen to what I have to say. Maybe you agree with it. Maybe you have some other ideas that maybe I can agree with. Because I will say that now that the channel's starting to take off and people are starting to comment, there are people out there that are wise and intelligent, but they exist elsewhere. You know what I mean? And to me, that's kind of like, oh, okay, well, what do I do? How do I reach out to these people? You know, how do I link up with like-minded individuals? And, you know, I've been a lurker online for years, and I had an issue. I'm not going to say I was canceled, but there was an incident that kind of scared me away from social media for years. You know, and I became a lurker, and a lot of it was my fault. It was like I was afraid to be called out, and I realized that the people that I was hanging out with just were toxic people. It wasn't the social media aspect, it was just the fact that there were toxic. And I realized that, you know, in order to be that, I had to get out of my... A lot of it came from my political campaign. You know, I realized how nasty people were, and that was kind of like, okay, I've had enough of you people, and just close the door. You know, close the door, lock the key away, we're done. That political campaign really embittered me. But I realize now that there's a better way. There's a better way, and this is that way. So, in terms of the retirements, if you want to save for retirement, I'm not going to tell you no. It's your money. You do what you want. What I will say, though, is don't be surprised when it doesn't go your way. Because, you know, how many times have like people invested in the stock market and it goes up and they start investing? It's the same thing with Bitcoin. They all invest in the bubble, and then the bubble bursts, and then everybody loses their shirt. And then they cycle. How many times? And that's what I'm saying is, like, I see this. You know, we all see something coming at the horizon at us. You know, yes, Orange Man bad got elected. Okay, fine, whatever. But when people sit there and say that the president controls the economy or whatever with the economy, no, the economy is bigger than one man. Yes, he has a significant influence on it through things like tariffs and all that stuff. But, you know, we see that India and Pakistan are popping off, and we just got a new pope and all these other things. You know, the world is a big place with many happenings all over the place. You know, it can be like one person who the president can't even control lights himself on fire, and then like a whole town catches on fire, and then, you know, the world falls apart, or, you know, an asteroid could hit tomorrow. Whatever. So the question then becomes, okay, if that's the case, then what do we do? Well, like I said, I have my answer, which is I'm not participating in this anymore. I'm going to work. I'm collecting as much money as I can. I'm going to downsize as best as I can. And I'm going to do something. I don't know what. I haven't gotten that far yet, but I'm not, you know, I achieved a goal by moving to Texas. You know, I achieved that under my power. And am I happy being in Texas? Yes, I got access to some things that I was not allowed to have access to in California. I'm not going to say what, but people in the know. You know, I feel safer in Texas than I do in California. It's nice to be able to buy underwear without asking someone to open up a clear box. You know, it's nice to see shoplifters actually get prosecuted out here instead of just like taking stuff and then walking out the front door. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there with my clown makeup and my clown hair buying stuff. I should have just like grabbed whatever and walked out the door myself, saved myself a lot of money and headache. You know, and I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the people that I expect and pay to do the right thing, not doing the right thing, a la Rich High and Buffalo. You know, the cop who is sworn to uphold and protect and takes his oath seriously, even though the Supreme Court has said that they are not obligated to protect us. The man took his oath seriously, and he's looking out for victims. You know, meanwhile, the people at Buffalo schools are not doing the job that they're legally required to do. And I'm sick of it. That whole thing with Rich really embittered me. And you'll notice that, like, the 2 videos that came after that were recorded pre-Buffalo schools. All these videos from here on out are going to be post-Buffalo schools. And something broke in me when I saw that. Something seriously broke in me. And I hope everybody watches that video or finds out what's going on with Buffalo schools. Because it's not just happening in Buffalo, it's happening everywhere, nationwide. You know, and this is what I'm talking about, is it just feels like I'm paying money into a system, not voluntarily, mind you. I'm being taxed. And people are not doing their freaking jobs. Meanwhile, if I did 1/10 of what's being accused of the Buffalo school, I'd be in jail. I'd be in prison by now. You know? So that's what I'm saying is I feel like the system's failing. We all see it. You know, the trust is gone. It's not coming back. You know? So what do? I don't know what the answer is. Okay? My hope is that we can get a bunch of guys together and come up with solutions. Maybe the solutions are small scale. I don't know. They may be big scale, they may be small scale. I don't know what the answers are. But what I do know is the current status quo is not working. Okay? And again, this article just proved one thing to me, which is that it won't matter. You know, you can sit there and save up all your life. You know, but if, you know, some warlord in, like, you know, somewhere important starts launching nukes or whatever, it's not going to matter. All that hard work out the window because someone decided to have a pissing contest. Pardon the expression. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's the wisest thing to do to save for retirement and all that stuff. But, you know, sometimes I feel like the guy that lives under the bridge it makes more sense than these experts. You know, the experts have let us down. The experts only know what's in books. I don't have a book, otherwise I use it as a prop. Yeah, I don't have a book. Sorry. I got a stack of papers. But they sit there and read and they're like, oh, the world works like that. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, because the human element exists. You know, you can sit there and study all day long, but the human element does whatever it wants to do. Anyways, again, thank you so much, everybody, for the continued success of the channel. We are currently at 60 subs as of the recording, which is, I record on Saturdays, so it's the 10th today. Again, I've reached out to a lot of people, therefore I feel I've done my job already, but I want this to take off. Like, and when I say take off, I mean seriously take off. Okay? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. Have a good day. And make sure you like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Again, if you have a couple bucks, please donate. I'd like to get the website going. We're doing good on the website. I'm going to do an update video next, but we're doing good. Hopefully we have the money to host by when the website's ready to go. That's my ultimate goal, is as soon as the website's gone, we have the money ready to go. Boom, 3 years hosting ready to go. And we just start getting that money, getting groups going, getting everything going. You know, we're working hard on my end. Okay. But if you feel you can't, you're hesitant, well, there's other ways. You can share my videos. You can like, subscribe, comments. Comments really are good as well. Whatever, you know, every little bit helps, and you are honored for it. Anyways, again, my name is Jack. This is Sentinel Circle. Thank you for joining the circle today. Have a good day.